Hello students, welcome back to the next lecture, that is application to the function. In the previous lecture we have almost completed the functions, in which we have seen the number of parameters related to the function. Along with that, the last one is the very tricky lambda function. So right now we are seeing the applications of functions. So the very first one is the filter function. So in the previous lectures we have seen that a function generally it represents a block of code. It can be used in n number of times only if you can call it n number times. Now we are going for some application, that is one, the very first one is the filter function. This function is almost, you can say, you can define this function. How we are going to define this function, let us see. But since name of the function is filter, you know what do you mean by filter. If you want to filter out something, you want to filter, let us say you want to filter the sugar out of sand, you can easily filter the sugar from the sand by just pouring some water, and let us say we are going to dissolve, or we are just going to give some time to the solution such that the sugar can be dissolved in the solution, and then we can simply filter it out. The same way the filter represents, we are going to filter the some information out of the collection of data. Now how we are going to filter out, now let us see. This filter statement works on the basis of the true and false. That means one information is treated as true, the second information is treated as false. If your information is treated as true, that information is kept safe by the filter function. The rest information which is taken as a false is discarded by your function. Let us say if you have the 10 items and all of 10 out of 10, let us say 4 informations are false. So you can directly reject the 4 information, but you can keep the rest 6 information. The same way this filter function performs. That means the informations which are totally true, those informations are retained by the function filter. Now how this filter function works, let us see. We are going to define a simple function, name as a function v. You know how to define a function. Here you can see the definition of the function followed by the name of the function and followed by the parenthesis in which we are just putting a single variable. Now we are just checking the variable whether this variable belongs to the vowels or not. Now in this example we are seeing the vowels are referred as A, E, I, O, U. So all those 5 alphabets, you can say those 5 alphabets are represented as vowels, and now we are going to see that if those vowels can be separate out from the collection of data or not. So we are putting the conditional statement if the variable, that means whatever the alphabet you are taking inside the function, that is out of these 5, that is A, E, I, O, U, you just need to return the information as true. That means when the information is returned as true, that is the mark that yes, that information belongs to vowels. Otherwise the information is referred as false. So the very first thing the filter function provides is the information with the true or false. Now the next thing is, now we have this collection of data. This collection of data has a name, that is SEQ. So SEQ is the variable which hold this collection of data, and now we are going to apply this through the filter function. Now how we are going to pass it? Now look at this one. The very first thing we have defined, it is referred as filter object. This filter object is like, you can say it is a setup, or it is a condition in which the filter set its data. Just like an engineer can perform the engineer jobs, a doctor can perform the doctor job, the same way this filter object can perform the filter function job. That means whatever the data are represented, that data will be represented by this object, that is filter object, but the name of the variable can be anything. You can put it anything, except you need to follow those rules by which the name of a variable is followed by some rules. So, in the previous lectures we have already covered that what are the conditions in which we can put a variable name. So, here we have put the name filt. Filt is equal to, just like the variable name is equal to the value. So, here the value is the function. Which function? It is filter function. In this filter function, the very first thing is, what is your filter? That means on what function you are going to filter the sequential data, that is your function followed by the data. This is the order of the filter function. So, here in this you can see the very first data is your function, that is func_v, and the second one here you can see the seq. So, in this you can see that the both informations are provided to the filter function and will be stored by the filter object. So, here you can see now we are filtering the data on the basis of true and false. In this one statement, the all data is represented as true or false. So, once the data is being represented as true or false, like look at the data, A is the vowel, B is not the vowel, C is also not the vowel, but the E is the vowel. So, as per this, as per the filter data, the A and E are the answer of this filter function. Now, look at the output of the program. So, here you can see that this function V is providing the true and false, and on this basis we are just applying to this collection of data, and which will be directly stored to this object referred as the filter object. So, the filter object is filled, but the next thing is very important while looking at this output of this program, and this is that the filter object, here you can see the filter object, this filter object is represented in terms of memory. That means it is again an iterable object, and in order to fetch the information one by one, you need to iterate it over. That means you need to apply the looping operation to get the data. Without that, you cannot fetch the information out of this filt function object. So, here the 2 points are very important. The very first thing is the filter function requires a function which always give you true or false, the very first point. The second point is the filter object fetches the information, but you need some looping operation in order to receive the output from that object. So, these 2 points are very important for the filter function. Now, in the previous example we have defined the function, and defining a function is a little bit tricky task, but with the help of lambda function, look at the number of quotes, it has just reduced in one line statement. You can see in one line not only you have applied the filter function, but the function itself. That means this small code has given you the direct function inside the filter function. Lambda x, that means we are defining the lambda function with the one parameter x, where the x in AEIOU it is taken as true. So, this is the short code for the lambda function. So, you can see that the beauty of the lambda is to reduce the number of codes into a single line. So, in this the same object, that is the filt, but the difference is this lambda function. This lambda function totally makes a huge difference between the function and a single line function. the rest code remains the same, and here you can check the output that yes, the output is the same, the filter object is the same, but what is the difference? It is the execution of the one line statement in Python. So, this is how you can see that in Python this lambda function is so powerful that it can reduce your codes into just few lines. The next function is map function. In this map function you can see that the object which is returned by the map object, map is mapped object. Just like in the previous function, the object is the filter object. Now, here it is mapping object or mapped object. That means, whatever the data which will be received from the map function, it will be stored inside an object which is referred as mapping object. So, the process is almost very identical to the filter function. The difference lies that in this statement, that here the informations are not taken in the form of A, B, C, D, E, F or G. You can say that the map function does not give you the output as it is in the sequential data type, but rather only in the form of true or false. That means, when you look at the output of this program, here you can see that it has already marked all the things as true or false. So, the difference between the filter and the map function is that in the filter the segregation of the information is taking place, but in the map function this is not happening, it is just marking the data as true or false. So, you can see the filter is a very big function, and in that there is a small part which is referred as map function. So, in this, with this you can see that mapped object always give you the information in terms of true or false, it does not segregate the information. Now, again you can see the use of the lambda function. In the lambda function you can see that the code is totally reduced again in a single line, but the output remains the same because we are using the map function. In the map function the information is always retained in the form of true and false. If we have 20 objects or 20 elements, the 20 true or false statements are laid inside the mapped object. So, here you can see the difference, that just the code becomes short, otherwise the output remains the same, that in filter object okay. The third function, it is referred as the reduce function. In this reduce function you can see that it is totally converting your single dimension data which is referred as vector to a scale. That means, it is going to apply to all elements, but the answer to this data is in the reduced form, that is scalar form. Now, look at the problem. Let us say we have the problem that we have a list starting from 1 till 10 and we want the sum of all the elements. So, this type of problems are countered with the help of reduce function. So, with the help of reduce function, this function is applied to all elements and it is reduced to single answer. That means, you can get the answer, single answer, by applying the reduce function to the iterable object. Now, in this iterable object, here you can see that we are taking the iterable object as list. The list is a iterable object which collects the 10 elements, and the 10 elements are 1 to 10. And now, we want to get the product of all 10. That means, 1 multiply with 2, 2 multiply with 3 and up to 10. That means, all from 1 to 10 we are going to multiply, and what will be the answer will be given by the reduce function. One more thing is, now here is the reduce function is belongs to this func tool. You can say the func tool is a different sets of function which belongs to a module, and that module is func tool. So, in that one of the function is reduce function. So, here you can see that this func tool holds the definition of your reduced function. So, in this reduce function you can see that the definition of this reduce is coming from the func tools. The func tools is a module. Modules means it a different sets of the function and which holds the definition. You do not need to put the definition of a function, it is just directly imported from the module. The module name is func tool and we are importing it with the help of import statement. So, import followed by func tool, it means that the func tool module is imported in the function and this function is used from func tools. The func tools is the module followed by reduced. It is the syntax whenever we use something which belongs to the module is very first thing is the module name followed by the dot followed by the name of the function and followed by the requirement conditions. So, here what we are seeing is that we are importing this reduce function from the func tools. So, we do not have the definition of the reduce function just like we have seen in the mapped function or filter function. So, here we are just applying this reduce function to the data 1 to 10 which is inside a list variable, and you can see the output that yes, the output is totally reduced to single digits, that is this number. So, this number represents the product of from 1 to 10 and how it is coming with the help of reduce function. Now, look at the statement. Func tool is your module from where we are importing it, followed by this reduce, that is the name of your function, followed by the parameter. The parameter is taken as the condition of reduction, that means here the condition is the product. So, we are getting the product of all 10 numbers in one and stored it into a variable known as red, and you can see the answer is 3628800. The next topic is the scope of the variable. This is also comes under the heading of applications of function. In this you can see that what is the range or the location of a variable, because this topic is not related to a function, but rather to a variable which belongs to a function. If a function holds some variable, that variable will have some boundaries which is limited by the function. That means, the functions define the variable as local or global. The scope directly means that the location in terms of radiation or range. Just like when some person wants a location, or let us say a person want to buy a property such that every services are nearby, that means the all information or all services are totally local to him. That time it always go for such location or posh location where such information or services are easily available. This is referred as local information. That means, when inside a function a variable is defined such that the range of that function is limited by that function only, that means it is totally a local function. but if the variable is totally defined outside the function, it is referred as the global variable. Just like a company, when the company wants some employers, then what happens is that it always take those which are local to the company area, because of convenience to the company. The same way with the function, it also happens that variables always takes the information which are locally provided to the function. There are two types of information, one is local, the second one is global. The difference lies in the function itself. That means, if the definition of a variable, if the definition of the variable lies inside the function, it is referred as local. If the definition of a variable, if a definition and declaration of a variable is outside the function, that means the variable is outside the function, it is referred as global variable. Now, here you can see in the example that this is the function, this is the definition of a function, this is the body, and in the definition and the body there is no such definition of a variable, but the variable is lying outside the definition of a function. This variable is treated as global, because it is lying outside the definition of the function, it is referred as global. That means not specific to the function, क्योंकि specific, why it is not specific? Because it is not defined inside a function, rather it is defined outside the function, and due to this it is global in nature, everyone can access it, and due to this it is global in nature. You can see that since A is a global one, I want to learn Python programming, it is defined in the very first statement and it is totally outside the function. So, here you can see that when you are calling the function, still you can access this variable, and when we are calling this variable outside the function, still we are able to access this function or variable, sorry. But what about the local variable? When the variables are defined inside the function, they are treated as local variables. Now, look at this one. Inside the definition, that is inside the body of the function, you have the definition for the variable. If the definition of the variable lies inside the function, you can directly say it is a local variable. So, A is equal to something, that means it is the definition of a variable which is lying inside the function, and due to this you can say that A is local variable, because it is defined inside the function, and this function itself is a boundary to this variable. One note down point here is that most of the people use functions because at the end of calling of the function, it directly releases all the memory which was occupied by the function itself. That means at the last it will automatically perform the cleaning operation over your memory. Due to this, what will happen? The memories are totally get cleaned up. That means it is like a self cleaner to the memory. That means you do not need to delete anything if you are calling a function. But if you are not calling a function, rather you are calling a some code, that is not a function. That means now you need to perform the activity of cleaning. But when you are going to call a function, that time the cleaning will take place automatically at the end of the function, because that is how the function is defined. So, here you can see that the A is local to this function, and due to this variable is treated as local. But since A is outside, it is treated as global. It does not mean that the variables cannot have the same name. Both the variables have same name, but they are differentiated based on the scope, that is one is local, the second one is global. Now, look at this one. When we are calling the function, that time the output is I do not want to learn Python programming, and this variable is defined inside the function itself. That means right now we are taking the help of local variable, and due to this local variable, what is happening is at the end of execution of this whole program, this local variable is totally deleted out of your memory, because this is one of the unique property of the function. And due to this, what will happen, that right now in the memory there is no such variable which is referred as a. So, after that, here you can see that in the next statement you are asking for again a, but right now what is this a is referring not to a local a, but to a global a, that is this statement. So, due to this you can see there is a change in the statement that I want to learn Python programming. That was the global statement or your global variable, and it is coming into the picture only because the function has already taken care of its local variable. So, the local is basically restricted by the function. That means, the time by which the function spends, that time is totally limiting the time of the local variable. That means, whatever the time is decided for the function, that time is also defined for the local variable. After that, the local variable is automatically deleted out of your memory. Now, look at one problem here is this, that there is one such type of error which is referred as unbounded local error. This unbounded local error comes into the picture only when the compiler, or you can say the interpreter, does not know what you are asking right now. That means, at the very first line you are defining the a as global. Now, look at this one, that here the a is taken as a global variable, but in the second line you are going for the definition of a function, and in that you are asking for the output of the a variable. And right now what is happening in the next statement is the definition of a will come into the picture. Due to this, there is a confusion lying inside the interpreter that which a value will it is going to fetch, whether it is global or it is local. So, due to this, it will give you an error known as unbounded local error. It directly defines that local variable a is referred before assignment, because right now it is totally confused that which variable you are interested in. So, right now you need to specify that this a, what we are talking about, this a is not the local, but the global variable. So, in order to define this, in order to give the information to the compiler that we want the information of a of global variable, we need to give a single line statement by specifying it as global. That means, right now you can see that we are just asking that right now you can use the global a, and due to this global a you can see that we want the statement to be printed of global a. So, with this there will be no existence of the error known as unbounded local error. So, due to this you can see that you need to specify whenever you are dealing with the local variables or global variables, because in this if you are not going to specify, it will directly stick to the error. That error is referred as unbounded local error. And here you can see that yes, right now the program is running successfully. Why it is running successfully? Because in the very first statement you are going for the global a, after that in the local function you have just clarified to the interpreter that the global a we need to access it and we require the value of a, and due to this you can see the output. I want to learn Python programming. It is coming from the global variable, it is not coming from the local variable. So, with this we have completed the scope of the variable, and with this I completed the applications of the functions. Thank you to all.